Is your small business growing? That's the question we address right here on the Grow Your Biz Show. It's where we interview strategic entrepreneurs who inform and inspire you on your solopreneur or small company journey. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Grow Your Biz Show. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Grow Your Biz Show. This is show number 90 of the series, and I'm Paul Madsen, host of the program. I'm also the founder of growmedia.com, and growmedia.com helps grow businesses by uniquely telling your story on social media and television. So, speaking of television, my guest today is Jim Barger, ActionCOACH Omaha. Welcome, Jim.
Great. Great to be here. Thank you.
Nice to have you back again. Jim has been on the show once before, a couple times before actually, way back when. Show number 1.
That's right.
We were just laughing about.
Old number 1. That's
yeah,
right.
With all of its fun technical difficulties. And then also, I think it's about show number 55 or so, somewhere along the way. So welcome back.
Yeah, great to be here.
You're a veteran, and this time we have a TV studio.
Yeah, very impressive. This is good. This is
We're
better than
moving
the
up.
library. I like
Yeah, the library and all that good stuff.
yeah.
We grow.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're getting there. Hey, Jim, I'm just going to jump right on in here. Tell us, what business are you in?
Well, you know, Paul, I'm in the business of business re-education. And the reason I say that is because most business owners start their business without a lot of background in business. They may know their technical area very well, but they generally are missing some skills or are misinformed about skills in running their business. So ActionCOACH is just all about helping business owners rethink that, understand the proper way that they can grow their business, and then implement those ideas.
I like what you said, because the re-education idea, I mean, I start my business, I think I know my field, but I'm learning all the way. I'm learning all the time, aren't I?
Yep.
And aren't your clients doing the same?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, people start their business because I'm a good plumber, so I'm going to start a plumbing business. And the minute they do that, they realize there's all these things they don't know about, like accounting and marketing and hiring and team building and all that sort of thing. And so these are the areas that then we start making it up. And sometimes we get it right, and sometimes we don't. So all of that is the part that keeps our business from growing the way we want it to.
Sure.
And the plumbing may be great, but if we're not doing the other part right, we can have some real difficulties.
Well, tell us what coaching means. You say, you're the ActionCOACH is the brand. That's a global organization, of course. What does it mean when you coach a client?
Sure, yeah, and I appreciate the question. The coaching is different from consulting. You typically hire a consultant when you want to know more about a particular area, or you hire expertise to implement in your business. We may be experts in a number of things, but our goal is to coach people, which means we are going to help them think through their role, understand how they can grow their business, and really it comes down to 3 things. First of all, they've got to have a vision. Where they want this thing to go? What does the 5-year plan look like? What's the business look like when they're finished? Then we've got to put a plan together. How are we going to get to the 5 years? What are all the bits and pieces? Do we have a budget? Have we even thought about how that scales up? And then finally, it's the accountability. It's actually the doing the plan. And coaches come in then and help hold people accountable to make the plan work. Because the biggest problem for business owners today is not money, it's time. We just get totally buried. People are just overwhelmed by the volume of stuff going on.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, they don't make more time.
That's right. Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of each day, and you can only live on certain small amounts of sleep so long.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's it. Well, I like what you said about accountability, because I know me as a micro business owner. That's the key. I mean, my wife is tired of hearing about it. And she doesn't know what to say when I say, what should I do with this, or should I do that, or what do you think about this, or, I need an external ear sometimes. And do you find your clients have that situation as well?
Yes, absolutely. That's the great thing about a coach, is that a coach has no specific interest in the business, meaning, if there's a problem, they're not going to get all freaked out about it, right? We're going to, let's sit down and figure out how to solve it. Very hard for business owners, I think, generally to be a business owner. It's kind of a lonely life.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you have partners, it's a lonely life.
Maybe worse.
Yeah, maybe. Because, you know, you're like you said, your spouse generally doesn't want to know about what's going on or if there's issues or problems. You can't tell your employees that there's a problem. You can't talk about, you go to your banker and tell them that you're struggling, right? You can't talk to these people.
Yeah.
Your friends, you know, you got a little bit of a status or situation there. So who do you talk to? And usually they don't have anybody. So the business coach can be somebody that you can have a honest conversation with, you know, the depths of despair and talk about it. We'll let you do that for about, 15 seconds. And then we're going to come back and say, okay, how are we going to get to work on addressing these issues? So, yeah, definitely it's a huge opportunity to have somebody to work with.
Well, I like what you said earlier. You were talking about one of your clients, for instance, might say, I have a problem with this, and they want maybe you to help them out and do that, and instead you say, okay, well, what's the problem? What's the solution to getting to that, and who are you going to call? And then in 2 weeks or something, you tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, that's right. So our typical situation with clients is we meet with them every other week or every week, and the whole goal of that will be to review what they've gotten done in the time in between meetings. Then to talk about what are the critical issues going on now. And these, we're not talking about, okay, I've got to necessarily fix something or order something. This is more like, what do we got to do to make sure we're on that plan, that 5-year plan, and what do we have to do over the next week or 2 weeks to get that moving forward? Because we'll figure out the day-to-day stuff, but it's really the staying on that track that we want to make sure our clients get to. Well, and that's where the value is.
You've taught me the whole idea of that value of that 5-year plan, about how it's important to, well, I think you boiled it down simply, something about know what you want to look like in 5 years and then reverse engineer it from there.
Right, you have to work backwards, right?
It's not that simple, but I mean, tell more about that.
It almost sounds funny when you say it, but it's sometimes to say, well, what does the business look like in 5 years? Most people really haven't thought about that. They kind of have an idea of maybe the 1-year goal, but they really haven't taken time to think about, well, what does this thing have to grow into? And sometimes that's scary to them. They can't quite figure it out. Well, if I'm going to double this business in 5 years, well, I don't know how to start thinking about that. But if you work back 1 year at a time,
right.
Okay, you're here, you're going to have this to make that happen. And if you work it back, actually it flows out pretty nicely and you get an idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's the word backwards, but it's usually as a derogative, but in this case, it makes all sorts of sense.
Yeah.
Put that picture on the wall, what kind of staff am I going to have to get this, what kind of operations, what kind of marketing, and so on.
So I can say to you, okay, so you're at $1 million now, you want to be at $3 million in 5 years. Well, how many employees would it take to have a $3 million business? Using what you already know about a $1 million business.
Right.
How many equipment, trucks are you going to have? What kind of a facility do you have to have? What do you think you'll be doing for marketing? I mean, these are questions that we can figure out intellectually.
Well, why don't entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs, why don't they think in terms of 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
It's that time thing again. We're so wrapped up in the present. The to-do list is so long that we just can't even take a moment to think about that. We're trying to figure out today. We call that the past-present mentality. And so we're thinking about what happened yesterday. We're thinking about what I got to get done today, and I don't have time to think about tomorrow. And we really have to try to help clients get into a present-future mentality that says, okay, what am I doing, but how is that going to affect my future, and am I on that right track?
Well, that makes complete sense to me, but not few of us do it.
That's right, it's hard.
And I think that's the value of a coach, of having that in there. Well, Jim, back up a little bit. Tell us, why are you in this business? I've known you outside of this show, of course, and I know a little bit about you, but tell the viewers, why are you an action coach? Why are you a coach, and why do you do this kind of thing?
Right. Well, I've owned a number of businesses, so some of them were very large, $100 million business. Some of them were small, just $100,000 businesses. And I had the same experience that business owners have everywhere, right? I was trapped in those same kind of situations. And the fact is that I was able to kind of learn some of that by experience. And when I met the Action Coach people, I realized that, hey, this is something that everybody needs to hear. So it's a bit of a mission. I really believe that we've got to help business owners understand their role And I think it's a great opportunity for me to teach in that. And I love to teach and I love to talk. So
well, you're in the right field.
I am.
But I know, again, you outside of this, and it's not so much about just you talking, it's about you listening. And I think that's back to the lonely entrepreneur story. That too many of them don't have someone to listen to them.
That's right. Yep.
But you don't let them whine too much more than 15 seconds.
That's it.
15, go.
Brad Sugars, the founder of ActionCOACH, says that you can't have a bad day. We'll give you a bad half hour.
I like that.
And then you got to get back to work.
I like that. I like that. You put the priests in the confessionals out of business.
That's it. That's it.
Well, that's great. I can sense your passion. I can sense that you've been there and you've done that, and that's why you want to share that with other people. You've had some successes along the way, and I think that's great that you want to get and share that with these people. Okay. Jim, if I type coach into Google or Coach Omaha Business Coach, I get 27,000 or whatever responses. What differentiates you and ActionCOACH from the plethora, that's my big word of the day,
sure,
of all the other coaches out there?
It is the ActionCOACH system, number one. The ActionCOACH system has been around for 26 years, founded by Brad Sugars, I just mentioned him, and a plug-in. Brad will be here September 28th in Omaha. He's going to be speaking at the Embassy Suites Convention Center, so I'd love to have people come out and join us there. You can find that on BradSugarsOmaha.live.
Got your own
there you go.
BradSugarsOmaha.live. We'll put that on the screen.
So check that out.
Okay.
But Brad Sugars, who was a young guy when he started, he's now barely 50, and the company's been around for 26 years.
Wow.
And he developed an incredible system to help business owners do what they need to do. And so primarily, I teach people
tell
how
he
Well, he was a very young guy, in his 20s, started a business and managed to sell it for a couple of $1 million. And he decided that, okay, what do you do then? Well, you retire, right? I'll just go off and play golf the rest of my life because I've got millions in the bank. Well, that got boring pretty fast. First of all, it's just golf, and then, like he always says, he played like 3 or 4 rounds a day. And then they're always with guys that look like me, a bunch of old guys, out there doing it. And but his friends kept saying, Brad, can you teach me how to build my business? Yeah. So he said, yeah, I could do that. And then he thought about that. He's a whiz at leverage. And so he said, but I could teach other people to do this, and they could be franchises, and then he would do much better than just using his own time.
And how many locations, how many countries around the world?
Yeah, we have about 1,200 coaches around the world.
Wow.
In 86 countries.
Wow.
And so it's in fast growing. We're still adding all the time. So it's pretty
the differentiator then is it's a system.
System is very much a differentiator. There are a lot of companies that work with business owners, but I have to say I kind of believe that there's not a lot of competitors to ActionCOACH as a one-on-one accountability coach. There are individuals that do it. There's independents, and they're great. I know a bunch of them in the city here. But ActionCOACH just is a fabulous team and brand to work for, and it's just we get a ton of content and value from being part of it.
Well, what I like about it too is that it's you're a business owner to do this. You have to buy the franchise.
That's right.
So you own the business, and I also like the fact that the people who buy those franchises are typically people like you. Maybe they're not quite as much of a storied career as you have, but people who know something about business. They're not just coming in and just buying a system.
That's right, yeah.
They're bringing some of themselves to the table too.
Sure.
In fact, why don't you share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, well, I suppose the best story I've got is when I was turned 40, I had a chance. I worked for Burger King Corporation, was a employee for them, and had been in Asia Pacific for a while, had worked there. And so some of the fellow workers I had there, we had always tried to get Burger King into New Zealand, and it just never, it had kind of fallen over for a number of weird reasons, like the Gulf War and things like that. So one day I got a phone call from one of my buddies, and he said, why don't we do New Zealand? Let's do it. So we said, sure, let's just buy the country.
Buy the country. I love the phrase, buy the country.
We moved to New Zealand, moved our families there, and started building Burger Kings. And we built 60 over 6 years. And we built that company to be a $100 million company with 3,500 employees or so.
That's 6-0, not 1-6.
That's right. And so that was great fun.
And how many years? 6 years?
That was 7 years. I was there. We did it in 6 years. We built
Wow.
60 in 6 years.
So
And,
that includes, I mean, yes, you bought the franchise rights, but you had to find people, find the right street corner, build the buildings, procure the food and the systems and all that stuff, hire the people.
Hire the people.
I mean, that's, and plus working with 3 other people.
Fair partners, that's an interesting experience too.
Yeah, very.
But they were great guys, and we had a financial partner as well. In fact, we had several of them along the way, and so that was great. And it's a fun story, a lot of interesting details to it. But it is exactly what I try to share with business owners, because we had a 5-year plan. And our goal actually was 25 restaurants in 5 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
But before we packed up and went, we had a plan, understanding of how we thought we would get that done and make sure that it worked. Now, like all plans, they never go quite the way you lay them out.
Right.
But the fact that we had that plan enabled us to think it through, kind of know what the contingencies were, and then take action to get it, and gave us confidence to do it, even though our wives thought we were crazy.
Well, not at the end, but I mean, what were some? I mean, this show has entrepreneurs of all levels watching, and some of them want to go to the next level. Most do, if they're entrepreneurs, you know.
Yeah.
What were some of the lessons learned, the speed bumps that you hit along the way in growing that business?
I think, number one, have the plan, because you've got to know what you think you're going to be doing. Second of all, we grew, and this is a really hard one, but we were convinced that we had to grow the infrastructure of the business faster than we had grown the revenue generator.
Okay.
So we knew we were going to be building restaurants. We were in a foreign country. I said, we need an HR person who understands the laws here and can do the recruiting. Right. And so, we hired a full-time HR professional. Right. We had to have a controller, an accountant. We were not finance people. We had to eventually then, the third thing we brought in was development people for real estate and that sort of thing. So we were spending money ahead of the game. We lost money for the first 3 years. Yeah. But we had lined up that capital beforehand. We knew we would have that
burn
kind of
through. They call it the burn.
That's right.
Burn through your cash.
And we hit it just about right. It took us 3 years, and but at that point we always had a structure that we could grow into. Now that's a very hard story for entrepreneurs, because typically we kind of shoestring everything. Right. And And that's but you've got to kind of have a mentality that, okay, I might not get to spend every dollar I make on me. I'm going to have to reinvest a lot of this for a while.
Well, that's the key. All the people I have on the show, I mean, they're the ones who are successful in growing. Use that word, that R word, that reinvest. And I mean, when you were building your company, did you bring in outside capital then?
We had a financial partner that helped us with that.
More than one, you said, I guess.
Yep.
And I mean, that probably gives. I mean, too many of us as entrepreneurs start something, maybe with a 1 year or the 1 month plan, and don't have the projection of what the actual revenue would be. I mean, don't have that reserve, don't have that backup plan. I guess they call it undercapitalized. Yeah. Do you see that?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That's easy to do. I've had a couple of those too.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But so here's what I think. You get when people start a business, they need to be thinking about what does the structure have to look like to make it cash flow for you. People start one-person businesses, and they kind of pretty quickly need that income to live on. Okay. And then they're never able to hire the next person. Your business, if it's going to be a real business, is going to eventually be run by other people. And so your job is to get to the place where you can build a team that can run the business for you. Sure. If you don't, then you will have a job, which is nothing wrong with having a job.
Bought a job.
But it's not a business, it's a job.
Well, yeah, talk about that. I mean, the difference between a scalable business and a lifestyle business. That's
right. That's right.
What is that?
Yeah, and I don't know if lifestyle is quite the right word, but it certainly means...
Well, sometimes it's not the best lifestyle.
It's a real business. Right? A business should pay you two different ways. Okay. One is it should pay you with operating profits. The other is it should generate asset value. Now, if the business totally depends on you to do the work, then you don't have an asset. You have a job. So you're getting the income, but nobody's going to buy it because it doesn't come with you. And the
Right.
minute you're out of the picture,
you're exchanging the time for money. I worked in the staffing and headhunting business, and knew of a gentleman who had a very successful one. He was placing people all over the country, and he had relationships all over the place, made a lot of money doing what he did, wanted to sell this. Well, there's really nothing to sell with him out of it.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, even though he had a very excellent income, he had a job still. And I mean, his business is a list of names.
Yeah, right.
And if you have a buyer come in and call those names, like, well, where's Bob?
Yeah, I want Bob.
I bought Bob's business. Well, I want to talk to Bob. And so they really have nothing. And so that's what you said, when the asset value, I think. Do a lot of your clients work toward building that asset value? I mean, do you steer them toward that, or are they already there? Or tell us about that.
That is totally what we try to work towards. And because we want our business owners to be able to step back, not necessarily step out of the business, but we want to be able to step back and do the critical job, which is marketing, thinking, planning, visionary work, and we want them to develop the team. Those are the three primary functions of a business owner. None of them have to do with swinging a hammer. And so we want to help our business owners get out of that day-to-day doing stuff and take on more of that strategic role, which means they may still work 10 hours a day in the business, but they're not doing the same thing they were doing at the beginning.
Sure. Well, you have a story, I think, about one of your clients who, I don't know exactly, I can't remember exactly where he started, but he ended up, after working with you, saying something like, "I'm bored," or something.
Yes, that's right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I had a landscaper that I worked with, and he set up a very nice business. And eventually, though, he said to me one day, "I'm kind of bored. Everything is working. I got people."
And why was that? What did he start with, and what did he end up with?
He had salespeople. He had managers running the production. He had accounting people. He had all that going.
And did he start that with that?
No.
You helped him get from A to B.
That was all kind of done as we kind of worked together. And when he did that, then it's like, well, maybe it's time to either look at buying another business or expanding this one, or whatever. We have to look at something for you to do.
That's where I want to get in business, is to the point where I say, Jim, I'm bored. I need another business. I need to start another one, grow another one, whatever.
So here's a great trick, and I think this is a great thing. Draw the organization chart for your business as it should look when you're done, or when 5-year plan.
Right.
Put all the boxes on there for your 5-year business. Your name's going to be in all of them, right? But then you look at it and say, which is the first one that I want to put somebody else's name in? And if you ask that question, you'll start to think about that person. Maybe it's a salesperson, maybe it's a production person, but whatever it is, you're going to pick somebody to say, that's the job I want to give away first. Well, then you begin to work to replace that role.
Okay.
And you start to think about it. Now, it may be, as you build your business, that the first chunk of money, profit that's over and above maybe what you're living on, you're going to have to take that and reinvest back in to hire that person. Right. So you're not making any more money, even though the business is bigger, but now you have somebody in that role. Right. And you're going to do that again, and you're going to keep doing that for quite some time. So the point being that you may not see dramatic increases in revenue, your own personal pay, over the first few years of the business, because you're always putting that back and hiring. Right. But eventually you're going to say, that's it, I've got them, I can step back, and now the revenue is coming to you.
You're an example. I mean, I imagine that for 3 years in the 60 Burger Kings, or however many you had after 3 years, you're kind of going like, isn't it about time we start making some money? But you could certainly see the writing on the wall where you went.
Right, and in the end, I was a shareholder of the company. I left New Zealand, came back to the States, and I got my check every month because I was a business owner. And I didn't have to do any other work. I was a board member. I didn't have to be there every day.
Because you probably flipped some burgers in New
we've
Zealand.
done a bit of that. Sure.
And so that's a good stretch from flipping burgers to sitting at home and cashing that check because your business was created. You did create an asset. Well, that's terrific. Well, speaking of assets, let's go back to Brad Sugar again, the founder of ActionCOACH. Why is he coming to Omaha? What will people get out of that? What's going on with that event?
So Brad's a great guy. I mean, he's a tremendous entrepreneur, owns a number of businesses. He's the CEO and full owner of ActionCOACH, but he has other endeavors that he does. But he's an international speaker, speaks all over the world, talks to our groups, of course, and he does a number of real estate oriented classes as well as business owner classes, and he's just a very dynamic speaker. People love him.
So he can help me think in terms of leverage.
Yes, yeah, and that's just a big thing that he focuses on and leverage is defined by us as getting more done with less, right? So less of my time and more return. So he's I invited him to come to Omaha and be a speaker, and he never been to Omaha to speak.
Okay.
So I said, will you come and we'll put you up at the nice place and get it going. We're looking for several hundred people being there.
Sounds like a good event. We'll put the contact information on the screen, make sure people know about it.
8:30 to 12:30 on September 18th.
Well, got it down, and we'll get it down. Last thoughts, Jim, let us know what entrepreneurs should do to get to their next level. 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Well, okay. It's very clear. You've got to sit down and plan out, think through what this is going to look like in 3. If you can't go 5 years, go 3 years. But go out enough, say, what does this need to look like for you to be happy? How much do you need to make? And then start working back. How many employees would that need? How many vehicles do I have to have, et cetera? What's the investment? Just the act of doing that will begin your brain thinking about ways. You'll get very creative on how to make that happen. But if you don't do that, you'll be living the same life 3 years from now that you are now, and you won't have gained any progress.
Great advice from Jim Barger.
Right.
Jim, thanks for coming, and thanks for you for watching this episode of the Grow Your Biz Show. Please check out growmedia.com, and if you need to tell your story on social media, please be in touch with me as well. We'll get your name and information out there where it can make a difference for you and your customers. Thanks again for joining us. In the meantime, until next week, get out there and grow something.